Your Honor, I don't care what she says. My family donates more to the city in a single year than she'll earn in her entire lifetime. So let's skip the drama and just tell me what this is going to cost. The moment those words left his mouth, I felt something shift in the room, and I knew instantly, this was going to be a morning I would never forget. My name is Frank Caprio, and I have served as a judge at Providence Municipal Court for decades. I've seen thousands of cases, I've heard every excuse imaginable, I've watched people lie, cry, beg, argue, and everything in between. But what happened in my courtroom that Tuesday morning was different, something that made my blood run cold, and my heart break. At the exact same time that if you believe justice should be equal for everyone, no matter how much money they have, then you'll want to see what happens next. Let me take you back to the beginning. It was a clear morning in May. Sunlight poured through the tall courtroom windows, casting long shadows across the wooden benches. My bailiff, Officer Torres, stood near the entrance with his usual stern expression. The gallery was about half full. Some people were waiting nervously for their own cases, others were law students scribbling notes. A few were just curious citizens watching justice unfold in real time. Officer Torres cleared his throat and read from his clipboard, Case 2026 TR 4782. The State of Rhode Island versus Brendan Cole Harrington. I lifted my eyes from the desk. Good morning. Please step forward. A young woman walked to the front first. She looked about 24 or 25 years old. She wore light blue scrubs decorated with small yellow flowers. Her dark hair was pulled into a ponytail, neat but tired. A worn cloth bag hung over her shoulder. Her hands trembled slightly as she stood before me. Good morning, Your Honor, she said softly. Her voice was quiet, but respectful. Good morning, I replied. Please state your name for the record. Maria Santos, Your Honor. I gave her a gentle smile. Ms. Santos, I see you're wearing scrubs. Are you a nurse? A nursing assistant, sir, she answered. I work the night shift at St. Joseph's Hospital. Mostly caring for elderly patients. I nodded. That's good, honest work. Thank you for what you do. And I meant it. People like Maria keep this world running. They work exhausting hours for modest pay, and most of the time they go home without the thanks they deserve. She nodded, and her eyes grew glossy. Thank you, Your Honor. I glanced down at the file. Ms. Santos, you're here today because on April 19th you were involved in a traffic incident. Is that correct? Yes, sir, she replied. I was driving home from my shift. It was around 7:30 in the morning. I stopped at a red light on Waterman Street, and then, his car hit mine from behind. Before I could ask another question, I heard footsteps behind her, heavy footsteps, loud, confident, almost aggressive. I looked up. A young man walked into my courtroom as if he owned the building. According to the file, he was 22 years old, but the way he carried himself, you would think he was the king of the world. He wore a dark blue suit that probably cost $3,000. On his wrist was a Rolex Submariner, the kind of watch that costs more than most people's cars. His brown hair was styled with far too much gel, and his face, it had a look I've seen many times before, the look of someone who has never been told no. Brendan Cole Harrington. He didn't look at me. He barely glanced at Maria. Instead, he pulled out his phone and began typing, standing right beside her. I waited. I let the silence hang in the air for a moment, then I spoke. Mr. Harrington. He didn't look up. Mr. Harrington, I repeated, louder this time. He finally glanced at me, annoyed. Yeah? The temperature in the courtroom dropped. People don't say yeah in my courtroom, not like that. Mr. Harrington, I said firmly. Please put your phone away. You're in a courtroom. Show some respect. He sighed like I had asked him to climb a mountain. He slipped the phone into his pocket, but kept his hand resting on it. Fine. Then he added, without shame, can we make this quick? I have a tea time at 11. A few people gasped from the gallery. Even Officer Torres raised his eyebrows. I kept my voice calm. This will take as long as it needs to take. This is a court of law, Mr. Harrington, not a country club. Do you understand? He shrugged. Sure. Whatever. I took a slow breath. Over the years I've learned patience is a judge's greatest weapon. The moment you lose your temper, you lose control. I turned back to Maria. Ms. Santos, please tell me what happened that morning. Maria nodded, her voice steadier now. I was stopped at the light. Completely stopped. And then I felt this huge crash from behind. My whole car jerked forward. My neck snapped back. I hit my head against the headrest. I leaned forward slightly. Were you injured? Yes, Your Honor, she answered. I went to the emergency room that same day. I have whiplash. The doctor said I need physical therapy. Then she paused. Her voice dropped. But I can't afford it right now. My insurance has a high deductible. I nodded slowly. I see. And what happened after the collision? I asked. Maria swallowed. I got out of my car. I was shaking. I was scared. I walked back to see if he was okay, and, her voice cracked, he was on his phone, laughing. Laughing? I repeated. Yes, sir, she said. He was talking to someone? He said something like, Dude, I just rear-ended some girl. It's hilarious. She's freaking out. I looked at Brendan, his face didn't change. He didn't deny it. He simply stared at the wall as if he was bored. Go on, Ms. Santos, I said. I asked him if he was okay, Maria continued. I asked for his insurance. He barely looked at me. He took a picture of my license plate with his phone, tossed a business card at me, and then, he drove away. He left the scene? Yes, she said, but he came back about 10 minutes later. A police officer had arrived by then. The officer made him come back. I looked down at the file. Sure enough, there was a note from Officer Brennan, defendant left scene. Returned after dispatch contact, leaving the scene of an accident. That isn't just careless. That's illegal. I looked up at Brendan. Mr. Harrington, is what Ms. Santos said accurate? He finally looked at me. Look, I tapped her bumper. It wasn't a big deal. She's making it sound like an action movie. I left because I had somewhere to be. I came back, didn't I? I narrowed my eyes. You left the scene of an accident. That is a violation of the law. I came back after a police officer tracked me down, he muttered, then he rolled his eyes, actually rolled his eyes. In my courtroom, I spoke slowly. Mr. Harrington, do you understand the seriousness of what you did? He scoffed. Honestly? No. It was a fender bender. Her car is old anyway. Probably did her a favor. Maybe now she'll get an upgrade. I saw Maria inhale sharply, her hands tightened into fists, but she didn't say anything. She just stood there, forcing herself not to cry, and I felt something twist in my chest, anger, sadness, disappointment. I looked straight at him. Mr. Harrington, I said firmly, you hit another person's vehicle, you injured her. You mocked her, and then you left, I said, staring directly at him. Do you feel any remorse at all? He shrugged again, that same careless, entitled shrug. Not really, he said. Accidents happen. I placed the file down slowly, then I leaned forward. Let me explain something to you, Mr. Harrington. Ms. Santos works night shifts taking care of people who can't take care of themselves. She drives an old car because that's what she can afford. And now she has medical bills because of your carelessness. And you think it's funny? His lips tightened. I didn't say it was funny. I didn't blink. Ms. Santos testified that you were laughing on the phone. He raised his shoulders. That was a private conversation. I leaned in closer. You made it public the moment you said it at the scene of an accident you caused. Brendan's jaw tightened. For the first time, I could see it. I was getting through to him. Good. I picked up another sheet of paper. Mr. Harrington. I have the police report right here. Officer Brennan noted that you smelled of alcohol. And you refused a breathalyzer test. Is that true? He shook his head. I had one drink the night before. I wasn't drunk. You refused the test, I said, because. He crossed his arms. Because I know my rights. My dad's lawyer told me never to take those things. Of course, the lawyer card. I've heard it 1,000 times. I flipped another page. I also have your driving record. 3 speeding tickets in the last 2 years. 2 warnings for reckless driving. You're 22 years old, Mr. Harrington, and you already drive like the road belongs to you. He scoffed. I'm a good driver. I stared at him. You rear-ended someone while distracted, and then left the scene. That's not good driving. He didn't respond. He just looked at me with that cold expression, like I was wasting his valuable time. So I decided to go deeper. Ms. Santos, I asked, turning to her, do you have any other evidence? She nodded and slowly pulled out her phone. Her hands were still shaking. Yes, Your Honor. After the accident, he sent me text messages. I raised my eyebrows. What kind of messages? She handed her phone to Officer Torres, who walked it up to my desk. I looked down at the screen. The messages were from an unknown number, but Maria had screenshots of the contact details, and the number matched Brendan Harrington's phone number listed in the police report. The first message read, don't bother filing a claim. My insurance will bury you in paperwork. The second message read, you should be grateful I didn't just drive off for good. People like you don't win against people like me. And the third message said, drop it, or I'll make this a lot harder for you. I read them once, then I read them again, slowly, then I looked up at Brendan. Mr. Harrington, did you send these messages to Ms. Santos? For the first time, he hesitated, his confidence cracked just slightly. He looked uncomfortable. I was just trying to handle it privately. I shook my head. This isn't handling it privately. This is intimidation. He tried to defend himself. I was giving her advice. I leaned forward. You were threatening her. That is not advice. I looked back down at the screen. I'll make this a lot harder for you. I read aloud. That is a threat, Mr. Harrington. He opened his mouth, then closed it. I handed the phone back. Ms. Santos, is there anything else? She nodded again. Yes, Your Honor. There's one more thing. There was a security camera at the gas station on the corner. I got the footage. Officer Torres took a USB drive from her and brought it to my clerk. Moments later, the courtroom screen lit up. The video began playing. The footage was clear, crystal clear. IT showed Brendan's black BMW flying down Waterman Street. His head was down. He was staring at his phone. His car didn't even slow as it approached the red light where Maria was stopped. IT slammed into her Toyota at full speed. Her car jerked forward, pushed into the intersection. Then, exactly as Maria described, Brendan stepped out of his BMW. He glanced at the damage, pulled out his phone, made a call, and he was smiling, actually smiling. Maria stepped out of her car, holding her neck. She walked toward him. There was no sound, but I could see her lips moving. She was clearly asking if he was okay. Brendan barely looked at her. He tossed something, most likely the business card, onto the ground near her feet. Then he got back into his car and drove away. The video ended. The courtroom was dead silent. I looked at Brendan. His face was red now. He knew it. He was caught. Mr. Harrington, I said quietly, you just watched the same video I did. Do you have anything you'd like to say? He clenched his fists. Look. I made a mistake. I'm sorry, okay? Then he added quickly, can we just settle this? I stared at him. Settle this? Yeah, he said. Just tell me what the fine is. I'll write a check right now. We can all move on. I didn't move. I didn't blink. You think this is about money? He smirked. Isn't everything? And that's when he said it, the words that made this case unforgettable. Brendan looked me directly in the eyes and said, Your Honor, I don't care what she says. My family donates more to the city in a year than she'll earn in her lifetime. So let's skip the drama and tell me what this costs. I'll buy my way out. The courtroom exploded. People gasped. Someone shouted, Are you kidding me? Officer Torres even stepped forward like he was ready to intervene, but I didn't move. I just sat there. I let the silence stretch. 10 long seconds. I wanted Brendan to hear his own words echo inside that courtroom. I wanted him to feel what he had just done. Then I spoke. My voice was low, calm, but every word carried weight. Mr. Harrington, sit down. Your Honor, I sit down. Saturday I stood. I walked around my desk. Then I stepped in front of him so he had no choice but to look up at me. Brendan, I said, using his first name on purpose, let me tell you something about this courtroom. This is not a store. This is not a car dealership. This is not a place where you can wave your checkbook and make problems disappear. He tried to speak, but I raised my hand. And no, you just told me your family's money makes you more important than Ms. Santos. You just told me that because you're rich, you believe you're above the law. You just told me justice is for sale. He shook his head quickly. I didn't mean, yes, you did. I cut in. You meant every word. I saw it in your eyes. I turned toward Maria. She was crying now, quiet tears rolling down her cheeks. Then I looked back at Brendan. Do you know what Ms. Santos does every night? She takes care of people who can't feed themselves. Who can't walk. Who can't remember their own names. She cleans them. She comforts them. She holds their hands when they're scared. She does all of that, for $12 an hour. I stepped closer. And you? You drive a car that costs more than she makes in 3 years. You wear a watch that costs more than her rent. And you think that makes you better than her. He started to speak again. Your Honor, I raised my voice. I'm not finished. You hit her car because you were staring at your phone. You laughed about it. You threatened her. You tried to scare her into silence, I said sharply, and now you stand in my courtroom and tell me you'll buy your way out. My voice rose to Brendan. Let me make something very clear. In this courtroom, your last name means nothing. Your family's money means nothing. Your expensive suit means nothing. Here, you are equal to everyone else. Here, the law applies to you the same way it applies to Ms. Santos. The same way it applies to every person who walks through those doors. And the same way it applies to me. I watched his expression shift, the arrogance cracked, and for the first time, he looked scared. You said you'll buy your way out, I continued. Well, let me tell you what you just bought yourself. I turned and walked back toward my desk. I picked up my gavel. I took a long breath, then I spoke clearly so everyone could hear. Brendan Cole Harrington, I find you guilty of the following charges: leaving the scene of an accident, reckless driving, distracted driving, and witness intimidation. I looked directly at him, and here is your sentence. He didn't blink, but I could see his throat tighten. First, you will pay a fine of $15,000. $5,000 for each violation, plus additional penalties. This money will go directly into the city's Victim Assistance Fund. His mouth dropped open. Second, you will pay full restitution to Ms. Santos. That includes her medical bills, her vehicle repairs, and compensation for her pain and suffering. I am ordering you to pay her $25,000. And Brendan, you will hand her a cashier's check within 14 days. He tried to speak, Your Honor, I raised my hand, I'm not finished. His face went pale. Third, your driver's license is suspended for 1 full year. You will not drive. You will not sit behind the wheel of any vehicle. And if I hear that you have driven even once, I will hold you in contempt, and you will go to jail. He looked like he had been slapped across the face. Fourth, you will complete 500 hours of community service. But not just anywhere. You will complete those hours at St. Joseph's Hospital, the same hospital where Ms. Santos works. You will mop floors. You will clean bedpans. You will do whatever the staff tells you to do. And you will do it every Saturday and every Sunday for the next year. I heard clapping start in the gallery, but I raised my hand. Not yet, I wasn't done. Fifth, you will write a handwritten apology letter to Ms. Santos. Not typed. Handwritten. It will be no less than 2 pages. You will explain what you did. Why it was wrong. And what you have learned from it. And you will read that letter out loud in this courtroom, in 30 days. And Ms. Santos will decide whether she accepts it. Brendan's voice trembled. Your Honor, I continued without hesitation. Sixth, you will create and record a public service announcement about the dangers of distracted driving. It will be shown in every high school in Providence. Your face will be in it. Your name will be on it. And you will tell those students about your mistake, so they don't make the same one. By now, Brendan looked like all the life had drained out of him, and then I delivered the final blow. And seventh, because you showed contempt for this court, because you stood here and tried to buy justice, I am holding you in contempt. I turned toward the bailiff. Officer Torres, take him into custody. Torres stepped forward immediately. Brendan shot up from his seat. Wait, what? You can't do that. I stared at him. I can. And I am. You will spend the next 72 hours in the county jail. That's 3 days, Brendan. 3 days to think about what you said. 3 days to think about how your words humiliated Ms. Santos. 3 days to understand that actions have consequences. Officer Torres placed the handcuffs around Brendan's wrists. Brendan's eyes widened in panic. He looked toward the gallery and spotted his lawyer, a man in a gray suit who had been silent the entire time. Dad's going to hear about this. Brendan shouted. I leaned forward. Good. Tell him. Tell him his son walked into a court of law and tried to buy justice. Tell him his money didn't save you. And maybe he'll learn something too. Officer Torres led Brendan toward the side door. Brendan turned back one last time. His face showed shock, anger, and something else. Maybe fear, maybe, just maybe, the first hint of shame. The door shut behind him and the courtroom stayed silent for a moment. Then slowly, one person began to clap, then another, and within seconds, the entire gallery was applauding. I raised my hand. Please. This isn't a show. This is justice. Then I turned to Maria. She was still crying, but now she was smiling too. Ms. Santos, I said gently, I'm sorry you had to go through this. No one should ever be treated the way Mr. Harrington treated you. I hope this gives you some peace. Her voice trembled. Thank you, Your Honor, thank you so much. I nodded. You're a good person, Maria. Don't ever let anyone make you feel small. You are worth more than all the money in Brendan Harrington's bank account. She wiped her tears and nodded. Then I struck the gavel. Court adjourned. 3 months later, I was sitting in my chambers when Officer Torres knocked on my door. Judge, you have a visitor. I looked up. Who is it? Torres hesitated. Brendan Harrington. I was surprised, but I nodded. Send him in. Brendan stepped into my office, and immediately, I noticed something different. He wasn't wearing a designer suit. No Rolex. No expensive cologne, just jeans and a plain black shirt. His hair wasn't slicked back with gel. He looked smaller, humbler. Your Honor, he said quietly. I'm sorry to bother you. I studied him. What can I do for you, Brendan? He sat down across from me. I just wanted to say, thank you. I raised an eyebrow. Thank me? Yes, he said, for what you did to me. I leaned back. I was angry at first, he admitted. I thought you were unfair. I thought you hated me. I shook my head. I didn't hate you, Brendan. I was disappointed. He nodded slowly. I know. I understand that now. He took a deep breath. I finished my community service hours yesterday. All 500. And it changed me. I looked at him. How so? He swallowed. I met people at that hospital, real people. People like Ms. Santos. People who work harder than I ever have, and they barely get anything for it. I watched what they deal with every single day. I helped a man who couldn't walk make it to the bathroom. I held an elderly woman's hand while she cried because she missed her family. He paused, and I saw his eyes get glossy, and I realized I'd been a spoiled brat my entire life. I nodded slowly. That's a big realization. He looked down at his hands. I apologized to Ms. Santos face to face. I gave her the money. I told her I was sorry for everything. And she forgave me. I exhaled. I don't know why, he said quietly. But she did. I nodded, because she's a better person than most. Brendan gave a small smile. Yeah. Then he said something I never expected. I'm going back to school in the fall. I'm changing my major. I want to study social work. I want to help people, real people. Not just throw money at problems and act like it fixes everything. Something warm rose in my chest, hope, maybe even pride. That's wonderful, I said. I'm proud of you, Brendan. He nodded, his voice cracking slightly. Thank you, Your Honor. And I'm sorry for everything. I gave him a firm nod, apology accepted. He stood, reached out, and shook my hand, then he turned and left. After he was gone, I sat alone in my office. I looked out the window at the city I had served for so many years. People ask me sometimes, Judge Caprio, why do you still do this? Why do you sit in that courtroom every day? Why do you keep hearing case after case? And I always tell them the same thing. This is why, because every once in a while, someone walks into my courtroom who needs a lesson, and if I do my job right, they walk out a better person. Justice isn't only about punishment, justice is about teaching. It's about showing people that actions have consequences, that words have weight, that respect matters, and that money can't buy character. Brendan Harrington thought he could buy his way out, but he learned the truth, some things. Respect, dignity, justice, they can't be bought at any price, and that is a lesson worth teaching.